Thanks very much. Always a pleasure to welcome the founder, owner, and president of the Boras Corporation, Mr. Scott Boras. Lovely to see you. It's not like you don't have plenty on your plate these days when you're here in Dallas. First question to you, I'm curious how teams are now evaluating players. Scott, you've been in this business for a long time, say compared to, say, 10 years ago or so.
I think it's always a function of best business for every team. It's never changed. The valuations of teams have gone way up. The revenues of the sport gone up. And the values of players follow that success that really every sports league enjoys. So I know the numbers are different year to year, but we have sometimes generational talents, which there may only be less than 10 in a century. And when they come along, you get demand because it's good business. Yeah. It's just simply good business to do that. And I think that's what ownership and executives and teams follow, is that theorem of this is something that's a rare opportunity for us, so we'll pursue it. And in other situations, they're very hesitant about their decision. So you see both sides of it in one market.
Generational players like Juan Soto, we understand the Blue Jays were in pursuit of Mr. Soto. I'd like to know, on a team where you've got expiring contracts from superstars, how did they pitch the Blue Jays?
Well, I'm not going to talk specifically, but I'll tell you how I look at it and what advice we give players. And that is, when ownership gets directly involved, they show that it's something that's personal to them. You have an indication that there is want, flexibility, desire to win that is consistent with what the executives of the team want and what they want for their country and their community. When you know that and you have that backdrop, and I thought that Edward did a great job. He came and sat down with us, took the time, spoke directly to us all about his philosophy, his feelings, his commitment to the Canadian country, Toronto, the city, and really what it meant to his family. That allows me to tell that to players, allows him to communicate it, and I think it really humanizes the Blue Jay franchise.
Scott, you mentioned generational players and how important they are to the game, how rare they are. Obviously, their contracts carry wider ramifications across the industry. The degree of commitment to Juan Soto, how do you think that will benefit future players and future players who are maybe in that type of class that he is?
Well, I've done some record-setting contracts in my day. And I remember when I did the first $50 million contract for Greg Maddux. It's kind of an umbrella, and there's shade to a point for the elite players, but not to his level. When I did the Kevin Brown contract, it was $100 million. Yeah. Again, there were a few followers in 3 or 4 years, not many. And then we did the A-Rod contract for right here in this hotel.
200.
And it was a very large separation from all other players. It was $10 million more a year, or in exchange, almost 60 to 70% more for one player than other players. And it took well over 12 years before other players started reaching those levels. So you see, one great generational talent does not impact a market exponentially. It's something that graduates very slowly because, again, we're back to the theorem of good business. Owners are going to only do things for certain skill levels and ages. So, and those types of players only come along literally, really once in a decade, 20 years. I don't, you know a few, and you've been in this game a long time, that can possibly get near those marks, but not many.
So certain players benefit by getting to the market and maybe not taking extensions earlier in their career. For players who are weighing that decision, they can certainly look at Aaron Judge, Juan Soto, and the benefit that they got by going to the market. Is it good business for players to try and push there? How do players need to weigh the benefits of getting to that market versus taking a guarantee earlier in their career?
As a lawyer for players, it's always an individual decision. I've had players take early contracts. I've had players that really felt it was important for them to stay in their current city. And I've also gotten contracts to the point where the ownership has recognized the value of as a player as a free agent, and they've done more to retain them prior to free agency in the market. And so each decision is something that rests with understanding the needs of the player, making sure as a fiduciary you've done a really good job of asking the questions, defining the potentials, understanding what that process is like, whether you sign early or whether you reach free agency. And as I say, it's very, very important that the athlete be given all the information, complex information, so that he can make an informed decision. And the thing that is most concerning for me is that I see a lot of decisions made that I assume are without the full complement of information. And that's, I have 150 people that work in our company, and we pride ourselves in trying to uproot every potential data point so that the player can have knowledge of it before he makes a decision.
Last two from me. When are we going to see our first billion-dollar player, you think?
Well, I remember, Hazel, that in 1990, when I was just, I think I was 9 years old, I'm not sure, but that when we did Maddox's contract,
yeah,
it was 93, someone said, I just can't believe that someone would ever make $30 million for playing baseball. And I said, oh, just wait till about 2000. You're going to see someone make around 7 or 8 times of that. And they looked at me like I had ketchup and mustard on my face. But the game will always rise to the level of demand and good business. If the revenues are there, the demand is there, we do a good job in administrating the game and keep the game to be entertaining. Some of the things that have been done in Toronto with their facilities, in spring training, at their stadium, are frankly trend-setting. They've done a remarkable job, and they're there to make players safe, healthy, comfortable, better players in the game. And when you do things to optimize talent, I think players are going to appreciate it and they're going to play better, and then the fans will be more inherently interested in your team.
It's a perfect way to end this. I know you've got calls. I know you're busy. I just want to say you've always been very gracious with us. Happy holidays to you and to the rest of your team, and I always appreciate talking to you, Scott. Thank you.
Thank you, Hazel.
Thanks, Scott.
Appreciate it.
Send it back to you guys.